Hello and welcome to Anime Review. The filler episodes, we're not sure yet, it's a working title. I am Matt, this is Andrew, and this is a podcast where we're going to talk about anime we are currently watching. We're going to be starting from the beginning of any anime we watch on this show, so feel free to watch along with us or go on ahead and enjoy. Just like all your friends, you've always tried to get into anime, or that friend who's always behind on what you're watching that you really want to talk about it with, we promise to catch up eventually. Without further ado, we're going to be going over Season 1, Episode 2 and 3 of Demon Slayer, or Kimetsu no Yaiba for all y'all Japanese listeners out there. Tanjiro is on the hunt to find a man named Urokodaki. In his travels, he comes face to face with a demon. Tanjiro must find a way to defeat this new threat while Nezuko attempts to defend her older brother. Alright. Andrew, are you ready?
Always ready.
Alright, let's get going then. Let's start off with our first scene. What's going on?
Okay. Well, it kind of does a very cool cut right in that beginning where they start to mention the Demon Slayer Corps.
Well, right before that,
true.
we have to point out the fact really quick that they're of course showing off right in the beginning of the episode once again that Tanjiro is overly helpful.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, they show Tanjiro the good boy.
Like, I want a basket, but it doesn't matter if it's trash to you. I'm still paying you for it, regardless of what you say about it.
You're like, I don't need money. Just take the material, and then he strongly places the money in his hand, and you see him in the frame being like, "Ow, dude!"
Like, it literally hurts the guy giving him money. Yeah.
But I mean, I find that hilarious because they give you a little upbeat tone right in the beginning. And then, it pivots.
Yeah. Also, gotta love Lisa for that intro music.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
100%. That is the best opening, I believe, of what was this year? 2019? 2020?
Oh, God, I have no idea.
Whenever the first season came out, that was on every anime playlist. That was in every weeb's dreams for that entire, at least 2 years easily on repeat.
I mean, it's in my playlists now.
To this day.
Which we're in 2023 now?
It's still a banger.
And to throw out the fact that Demon Slayer is still going, I mean, they're a long-running series now. They had a big break. But back to episode 1. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more in filler episodes. Then we cut to, seeing Nezuko in a hole.
Oh yeah, she's in a hole. She dug herself further into the ground inside a cave.
Which was adorable. But they had that one shot of her eyes, showcasing the fact that she's back to normal again.
And she's also just looking kind of meh about everything, about this whole fucking situation happening.
And she's like, light's no good. I'm staying in this hole. Screw this. But then, showcasing her abilities and being like, not only can she get bigger, she can get smaller too, to get inside that basket.
Yeah, that was adorable because Tanjiro was like, we got to keep moving in the daytime. Do you think you can shrink yourself a little further there?
But it's also what I'm really excited about, the fact that now he's going to be having Nezuko on his back all the time.
She's turned into a Pokemon. I don't care who says it. She turned into a Pokemon for Tanjiro.
Yes, but Tanjiro can only choose her at night.
Oh, God.
That's the one stipulation of the Nezuko Pokemon trading card.
But, I guess we should talk about why he's trying to pack her up and keep moving, because he has a destination in mind.
Well, yeah, we learned last episode he's got to look for Mr. Urokodaki, which is the name of this episode, if I'm not mistaken. Andrew, could you...
I did forget. I think it was meeting... I'm forgetting his first name, but the title...
I think it's Sengoku.
The title is his actual name. Something Urokodaki.
Well, I will refer to him from now on as Mr. Urokodaki.
It's more like Sensei Urokodaki.
I mean, yeah, but that's what I'll refer to him as. So everyone knows who I'm talking about.
I mean, yes. So, Tanjiro's on his way. And he needs to find his way to Mr. Urokodaki over a mountain. So he's asking some directions, and he finds the easiest, quickest way is to cut through the mountain.
Yeah, which the lady's like, super dangerous.
Super dangerous, by the way. And it's getting dark. And you have a big old basket of stuff. And no one knows what's in there. But he does. And he's like, it'll be fine.
And Tanjiro is also always like, no worries, I have my super smeller.
He's like, you get it? I know when danger's coming.
And then we get our... I guess our first demon sighting of the Nezuko at this point.
Yeah, it's the first demon we meet, and he is just munching on some people. It's
so exciting.
It very in the interaction with the demon.
Well, that whole like, wait a second, are you two humans? And I was like, oh, this shit's about to go down.
So like, besides seeing Nezuko, who's completely nonverbal, by the way, and seeing a guy be able to speak and essentially hold some like cognitive thought,
yeah,
and be able to articulate what he's like saying, he's creepy. He's just straight creepy when you see him, and you're like, what happened with Nezuko? Why can't she speak? Besides having the bamboo in her mouth.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, maybe it's because of the bamboo in her mouth right now. And oh my god, her salivating, looking over those bodies while Tanjiro is starting that fight with that demon, which I don't believe we got a name of.
No, I don't believe we did. I bet if you looked it up in some way, you'd be able to find X demon's name. By all means, do that if you want to. Tell us.
I would love to hear about the name. But then that lunge and that sick axe swing.
Oh, this sick quick hatchet throat slice, and he's like, "Oh, a freaking hatchet, dude! That was cool. Doesn't matter though, because I'm gonna heal that."
Yeah, he was like, "Nice kid,"
and it's like, What do you mean, heal the throat slice?
Well, I mean, we did learn last episode that demons can heal quickly,
and I believe they stated that it depends on feeding on humans on how quickly you can do that.
I'm not sure if they said that, but I mean, I would imagine that would make sense. Like, maybe it's some kind of life force thing or something like that.
Like, he was just freshly chomping on some people. I felt like maybe he had like a quicker regen because of that. That's my own idea.
I have to showcase really quick that football kick. Like that front push kick, like that traditional Okinawan karate front push kick to his, like, making that demon's head fly off. and then just immediately going to a straight up soccer kick to the body when she saw it move a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, talk about an insanely cool moment though. Like, his head came clean off, like, with a kick. And Tanjiro's like, "Bruh, Nezuko, you just killed him."
My favorite thing ever is the head with just arms running around. I don't know why, but that was amazing for me.
And we learned that it's not just like regeneration that they can do. Like, this dude grew arms out his head.
Yeah, while his body was continuing to fight Nezuko.
Yeah, like, so not only can their head be severed, they can still control their body separate. And
that's like, well, it was almost like its body was controlling itself, and then he was controlling the part because he didn't know what was going on with his body
until we find out that his body fell off a cliff. And
well, that happens because Tanjiro makes the same exact mistake that he made in the first episode, throws his hatchet, gets him stuck against the tree. Great, cool, awesome moment. And then turns his back to his enemy and runs off to go help Nezuko with no weapon. And then proceeds to tackle him off a cliff and almost kill himself. Thankfully, Nezuko's right there. Like, savior, damsel in distress.
But as we know, Tanjiro was willingly to throw his life away for his little sister, no matter what's gonna happen to him.
Yeah, well,
we saw it with Kyou.
Isn't that the whole thing with Kyou being like, what's gonna happen to your sister if you die? That's why I say, like, he's making the same mistakes right now.
Yeah, he's still brash and still young, and this is actually the perfect thing for us to be doing episodes 2 and 3 right now, because it shows us the growth later.
Yeah, we do get a lot of growth throughout episode 3. Also, really quick, excellent like body hitting pavement moment. Like, I don't know why I like really enjoyed that animation of that guy hitting the bottom of the cliff.
I think it was the stiffness of the fall, like where he landed and just that thud. Like that is just peak cool moment. Like I can't I'm like losing my thought on that, but it's one of the more like kind of gruesome moments. Plus you find that he knows like, oh wait, my body's dead. What did they do? Because he has no idea. The head is pinned to the tree, and he's like, his hair was also kind of alive and was curling and wrapping around the hatchet, and he was like, well, that was a dumb idea. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Because he got completely pinned to that tree.
Well, because then, like, apparently his hair got tangled by wrapping it around the axe. But I mean, you know, again, a little throwback from last episode. If you haven't seen it, we covered episode 1. That axe really came in clutch again this episode. But moving on from that scene, Tanjiro having that difficulty, and Mr. Urokodaki appearing. For the first time, we get to see who this dude is. We don't know it's him immediately, but he kind of just appears and scares the shit out of Tanjiro.
I mean, you know, for good reason, but he's kind of, without us knowing, without Tanjiro knowing, he's sussing out Tanjiro's abilities. Because Kyou vouched for him. He said, please train him.
Well, we do hear about that in the end of the episode.
Yeah. But anyway, so Urokodaki is watching him saying, you know, that hatchet, the knife, it's not enough to kill this demon.
Yeah, and then he picks up that rock.
That's what I was saying. He was like, he's testing him to see where he's at.
Well, I will say, like, his own super smeller being like, oh, what are the words I'm looking for? He has the scent of empathy, and he has empathy even for a demon. To be like, oh, like this is never gonna work. This kid's not gonna make it.
Yeah, that was a powerful moment when he was like, he's standing in front of a demon. He still feels remorse for having to kill this thing. He's never gonna make it in this world. And you go, well, that is Tanjiro. As far as we know him at this current moment, he is just a very good boy. He's not built for killing, but he is built for protecting. And that's essentially what Kyou saw in him. And that is kind of cool to see that, especially in episode 1. He's like, you got to train this guy. He kind of reminds me of you with the way you smell things. And I think he's got something. Him and his sister's bond seemed to be something else.
Yeah, well, then immediately going and following up with teaching Tanjiro a lesson right away. And slapping him in the face as soon as he doesn't respond to him being like, what are you gonna do if your sister eats a human? And then smacks him in the face and is like, you're gonna kill her and then slit your belly and kill yourself. And that's what it means traveling with a demon. That, you know, that can never happen no matter the cost and all that. But it was that I felt like was a really powerful scene because it's really showing to Tanjiro, or at least like letting him know, like, these are your options. You're either gonna let this go right now, or that's gonna happen, and I'm gonna test you.
That is some of the like heaviest things that I think Tanjiro is gonna have had to hear up until like right now. So he has been given 2 choices, and those 2 choices are: you kill yourself and your sister, or you toughen up and you find a way to protect yourself and your sister. And that's essentially what Gyu's whole thing was. He's like, we need this dude in the demon corps.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need him here as a hunter. There is something here. There is something going on between this demon's like state of being and their humanity, and it hasn't fully slipped away yet. And that's interesting.
Well, I think the cool part about that is you in the last episode being like, well, there's something really different with them, and being like, okay, well, let's go and find out if this is actually going to work. There's something about this that's different from all of the other times I've experienced demons. She's not attacking people. I'm confident in that. And that's very powerful in and of itself, being like, oh, she's not going to harm a person. Having someone from the Demon Hunter Corps vouched for them.
Especially as a nobody. As someone who he literally was just like, oh, this guy's sister's a demon, time to do my job. And then the two of them defended each other to a point where he's like, this doesn't make any sense to me. But we're gonna keep seeing what's going on with that. All of a sudden, Urokodaki gives him the goal, which is, you got to find a way to kill this thing. What are you gonna do? And he's like, I'm gonna bash its head with a rock because it's the only way to do it. But he's like, I need to find a way to kill this thing with one swift blow. And you're like,
Well, I mean, it wasn't like I need to find a way. It was like, isn't there a way?
Yeah, he
was like, I would rather kill it in one blow than making it suffer. And that's when Urokodaki was like, oh, like, he has empathy even for a demon.
But then, cue the sun coming up.
Yeah, then the sun came up because of Tanjiro's hesitation.
And that decision was made for him.
Yeah, well, I mean, regardless, the demon was going to get killed. I mean, I imagine Mr. Urokodaki would have done it had Tanjiro not. Which I would have loved to get to see Mr. Urokodaki actually fight.
Yeah, you don't really get to see it. The most you get is some training montages in episode 3.
But well, spoiler. Big time.
We're talking about it.
That's a spoiler. That's we're not there yet.
I mean, we're getting there. We're doing it in the same episode. We're covering it all.
Spoiler alert for this upcoming discussion.
For 15 minutes from now.
It was an epic episode in general. Talking about the whole ending being a training montage of him going down the mountain. That was my favorite scene for this episode. Him going down the mountain and realizing that there were all these traps and everything like that. And actually seeing the traps in action, him getting hit in the face with those rocks and stuff like that. And him getting the determination finally to be like, I have to do this for Nezuko. This is my only way. I don't know any other way. So this is the course that I'm taking.
That's his whole driving force. He's like, I'm doing this for Nezuko. I have to get strong for Nezuko. So it seems like the whole ideal that was pretty much driven into him by Urokodaki and Kyou, saying you have to do this for your sister, not just yourself, is truthfully one of the most powerful things. But if we go back for just 1 second, when Urokodaki was like, fine, I'll teach you, he's like, we're going to go start training. They start running, and Tanjiro can barely keep up with him.
Yeah.
And he's significantly older, so that's okay, he's crazy strong. And then when they get there, he's like, are we done? Did I pass? And he's like, no, we're going into a mountain. And then, like you said before, all those traps and all those things to make it harder for him to get back home, that's the real test. That's his true grit test to see if he's got what it takes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I did love that scene of him being out of breath and being like, did I pass? And he's like, no, the test is just starting right now. We're going to go climb a mountain. And then gets to the top and is like, okay, find your way back to the house. And Tanjiro's like, easy, no problem. I know how to smell you.
Yeah, he's like, I memorized his scent already. And then, he makes it down and he's like, I'll train you. And then I'm pretty sure that was kind of
that's
the end of the episode.
Which I do have a gripe about the English translation in that. I don't know why it carried so much more weight for me again in Japanese. When he was actually selecting him as a student and being like, oh, please train him. I forget exactly what he said. Oh, he can become your something. It's basically like a version of student that's like, oh, this could be your number one student, basically. Yeah. To be your actual person who's going to take over the reins for you in the future.
That word is slipping my mind as well. But he was essentially just like, yeah, I will train you, and you got what it takes. And that's the episode 2 in a quick nutshell, guys. is a very powerful time.
Well, what's your favorite episode? Favorite scene?
My favorite scene. Okay. So as a goofy part, it's probably the very beginning when he like almost breaks that dude's hand.
Yeah, I get
trying
that.
to give him money because he's like, I'm the goodest boy, please. I got to give you something for helping me. And you're like, okay, he's got good value as a person, as a young man.
100%. I could get that. Yeah, I think I gotta say the training montage was definitely my favorite there. Well, what's your MVP?
Oh man, that is crazy. Because this one is hard. This one's a hard pick. MVP is probably Uro Kadaki teaching him that lesson when he was dealing with the decapitated demon.
I get that. My MVP is quite possibly the axe again. That axe is just doing all the work right now. Don't get me wrong, like Tanjiro, he's definitely trying his best and stuff like that, but he's making way too many mistakes. Compared to that axe is not missed. That axe is literally not missed.
I'm sorry, but the axe is gone now.
Yeah, which is super disappointing. I really wanted that whole, like, maybe it'll be Tanjiro's weapon from here on out. He'll just have an axe and be an axe wielder for the rest of the season.
That would be probably one of the funniest things if, as a sidearm, he has a hatchet.
Yeah.
I mean, like, come on, guys. I know the Demon Slayer manga has since ended, but I'm still holding out hope.
Well, my runner-up for MVP is that bamboo during the training montage where it just beat the shit out of Tanjiro, but it also gave us that one singular 3D scene where it seems like all the animators were like, nope, we're not doing that again.
But yeah, I mean, was there anything in this episode that was kind of a miss for you?
Honestly, like the biggest miss that I had was really about the translation. Like, I had a really difficult time in this episode finding something that missed for me. What missed for you though?
It was something so kind of like insignificant, and like you were saying, it breaks down a translation, but it's more like the voice acting. And for me, I prefer watching anime subbed as opposed to watching it dubbed, but I'm doing the dub because I've never listened to it and I'm just curious. The dub in the beginning, when he's trying to get Nezuko in the box, kind of made my skin crawl in like a cringy moment just because it was weird. He was like, grow for me, little Nezuko, or shrink for me, little Nezuko. I'm like,
yeah, I get that. That was a little bit like a little too much like creepy older brother sister vibe.
And it was the overuse of anime voice. You know, like you're trying to kind of be like, with it. And I'm just like, now it's just borderline creepy.
Yeah, I definitely get that for that episode.
It was literally just that one moment because Tanjiro's voice actor has not really done that too much. And it was just that specific moment that made me like, okay, I mean, let's pump the brakes here.
Other than that, though, I felt like this episode really got me hyped for future events because we actually got to see action.
We got to see the beginning of training.
Yeah, well, that's what I was about to say. And we also got to see training start and him being like, okay, well, now stuff is actually happening to our MC outside of, like, meeting a dude.
That's very fair.
So, yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you with that scene, but it's like I wanted to watch the process of Nezuko shrinking, which, by the way, Chibi Nezuko, adorable.
Best.
Like, I'll never get over that. But in general, that was probably my least favorite scene of the whole episode, even though it was cool to see that whole like display of Nezuko's abilities, and to actually see her like fight and be like, okay, well, it looks like it's Taekwondo because she's only using kicks.
I kind of want to know where she learned to fucking fight.
That's a good point. Oh, see, this is what makes me even more curious about Tanjiro's dad.
Like, was she trained in self-defense? Because, like, you don't just know how to do a flying roundhouse kick.
I mean, anime, though.
Yeah, rule of cool.
Yeah, I mean, or maybe
maybe that's what happens when you fight demons or become a demon. You immediately get some kind of fighting ability.
Or just like you're freakishly strong and you're like, whatever, anything I do is gonna do that.
I guess, and you have a healing factor now, I guess. But moving on to episode 3.
As Nezuko slips unexpectedly into a long slumber, Tanjiro trains with Mr. Urokodaki. In order to join the Demon Slayer Corps, he must first prepare himself for something called the Final Selection.
I got so excited about the beginning of episode 3 because I came to the realization that this is all coming from Tanjiro's notebook, his journal.
Oh yeah, he's just talking to us.
Well, the perspective
into a book. Yeah.
The perspective is that we're getting to see is reading from Tanjiro's journal, which is really exciting to me as a form of storytelling.
And wasn't he making this to read to Nezuko during, like, well, hopefully after undemification, if you want to call it that?
Well, I think he was doing that just after she wakes up. But that being said, it became very helpful to Tanjiro as well. But the interesting thing is that we're hearing it as though Tanjiro is reading it. So my question is, at the end of all of this, is this going to be him and Nezuko sitting down, him reading this to Nezuko after it's all over and done at the end of the anime? Which is like why I say, like, oh, this is such a cool form of storytelling, because I don't know if this is someone else reading Tanjiro's journal at the end. You know what I mean? Like, this could be Tanjiro's son reading his journal of him becoming a demon slayer.
That would be a very fun, like, if they ever made a spinoff, if they ever made OVAs.
Well, I don't know.
I've never, like, after the fact.
I've never watched the end. I didn't finish Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer's still running, and I haven't read the manga at all. So, that's a possibility for me.
Or, if Nezuko does get healed and fixed and becomes human again, maybe she reads those stories to her children. And then, if she has children, I don't know what's going to happen yet, but that would be a very cute thing. She's like, my big brother saved me. My big brother wrote a story about his life during the training years.
Yeah, I mean that's true as well. Who knows what really is that all about? You know what I mean? But that's what gets me really excited for the future of the anime.
This opening for for episode 3, which I mixed up with the episode opening for episode 2.
Yes.
But they start describing the story of the Demon Slayer Corps.
Yeah, have they been around for hundreds of years? Or I don't remember if they said hundreds or thousands of years.
But they only number in the hundreds themselves, and they operate outside the government. The government doesn't know they exist.
Yeah, kind of like a world masquerade situation. But also the whole idea that nobody knows who runs the Demon Slayer Corps.
It's like a very secret society that even the people at power do not know.
It also lets us know the only ways a demon can be killed is by sunlight or decapitation with a special sword.
Bum bum bum.
Yeah, hence the emphasis. Hence the emphasis on Kyou's weapon in episode 1.
We also find out, because we did hear about it in some brief detail from Kyou, from Urokodaki, that the primary source of food for demons is humans. And that is the never-ending battle, is between these normal human fighters, these demon slayers.
Yes, it also said about, that's when we learned that. Yeah, I also mistook this for happening last episode, but that's when they said, oh, like, demons' wounds heal very quickly, whereas humans don't.
Yeah, they emphasize it in this, saying that these human flesh bodies have to fight and, essentially keep demons at bay. And you're like, well, that seems completely unfair.
Well, it seems very imbalanced. It seems very difficult for demons who it's just like, oh, I got my blood on you while you had an open wound, and it's like, yeah, trying to eradicate a disease basically with swords.
Yeah, but I was like, that is a kind of our introduction beyond Kyou and finding out Urokodaki trains people to do something called the final selection.
Yeah, well, we also get a quick like synopsis of how like the Japanese katana is, and Tanjiro starting his training with Urokodaki, finally getting to hold a sword and use it, and then we hear about the 10 water breathing techniques, which I'm infinitely curious about. Like, I want to know, like, I guess that's that little bit that we get to see in the intro.
From what I like kind of know is that these different kinds of
spoilers.
No, not in the show specifically. But these techniques are based off of real sword styles. So all these different breathing forms are based off of different kind of sword styles with katanas. You can look those things up. They are very interesting to know, and I'm not going to pretend I know all of that, but I know it is based off of true factual things.
And I will be looking that up after this episode, without a doubt. I like sword fighting. That is an actual hobby of mine, so fantastic. I can't wait to learn about that. Yeah, and then, we get a quick classic waterfall scene, which I found hilarious, of Tanjiro being like, I am water.
And then, like, Urokodaki kicks him off. He's like, go in. And he's like, I'm doing it for Nezuko.
Yeah, and then right after that being like, I am water.
Any waterfall scene where you see a training and they just have their palms together and they're just, like, getting pummeled by it, it's freaking hilarious.
But yeah, I wonder what kind of weird ancient strength training that is. I guess it's like a form of endurance squatting. And then we get 6 months. Nope. 1 year of training later.
Yeah, we find out while Tanjiro is filling out his journal that Nezuko has been unconscious for 6 months, and they had to call a doctor.
Yeah, well, and then another 6 months went by.
And then
the doctor found out there was nothing wrong, and then that happened.
But, just to lump it all together, this is why I like training arcs in anything, and this was a training episode. Tanjiro trained for 2 years. If you break down the math...
Well, total, yeah.
Yeah, 2 years total.
But before that, like, he trained for the full year, and then Urokodaki's like, come with me, and then you get to see, it's time to cut the holy boulder. Like, that's the next step in training, is cut the holy boulder.
Yeah, but what's even crazier, he says, I've taught you all I can. I will not teach you anything else from here on.
Yeah, getting that final word from Urokodaki, I have nothing more to teach you. Now the rest is up to you on whether or not you can move to the next level. And then shows him, cut this boulder with the sword that I gave you. Also, really quick, the fact that Tanjiro did start to struggle a lot more when he first got the sword. Which is a cool thing of being like, oh, it's a lot more difficult to move around and it throws my balance off and all that. Whereas maybe if he had an axe, he would have been more used to it.
Yeah, with those very cool training montages, the stakes were upped. The traps became more lethal. He said his super smeller got even better. He was able to sense more danger easier.
Yeah, and the traps became so much more dangerous. Like, instead of rocks, now there's swords flying at him.
And he did, like, his generic his sword swings, and he would do that until his arms wanted to fall off. And then Urokodaki was like, keep going, motherfucker. You gotta go. And it's just like, okay, he's getting his ass kicked.
Well, I mean, that's the whole point, right? He's like, he's training until the point that he can't anymore. Then we get him doing that for 6 more months of trying to cut this boulder with never breaking his sword. So that sword's holding up.
That segues to his solo training montages where he's doing his constant reps that he learned from Urokodaki. He was trying to stay limber. He's trying to strengthen himself. He's doing all these things that he wrote down in this journal. He's like, it's a good thing I kept track of this because I needed this. And then, You remember the name of this episode?
No.
I believe it's just Sabito and Makoto, or Makoto and Sabito.
Yes, that's right. Then we get to see this epic introduction of the new character, Sabito, which is just so awesome. And I have the biggest gripe about this scene in English. They took way too much licensing. They made him sound like a dumb kid who's just like, I'm stronger than you. That's why I have this wood sword, and I'm gonna beat you up. And like, don't you want to be a member of the Demon Hunter Corps? Whereas in Japanese, he's like, act like a man, be a man, stand up for yourself. And it's like, what are you doing kneeling down on the ground after he jumps down and swings his sword at him and like makes him stumble? And it's like, what are you doing on the ground? Like, what are you waiting for? And then Tanjiro takes that fighting stance. Whereas in English, he's like, get up, take a fighting stance. And I'm like,
They made him very like antagonistic, and he was constantly just kind of mocking Tanjiro like a bully would, trying to maybe, make Tanjiro light a fire under his ass. But it was weird. It was a weird.
In Japanese, I felt that scene as that mentor, that person who's above you, who is telling you, no, you're not good enough. And this is what you need to do now. You need to show me what you're capable of so that I can show you how to get to the next step, because I've already done it. Whereas in English, it was that antagonistic, like, oh, I'm better than you, and that's why you need to learn from me. Where like it held so much more weight for me in Japanese, being like, this is a master showing a student, and this is his way of teaching. Versus in English, felt a lot more like I'm a peer and, I'm better than you.
It's like that rival mentality is essentially what he was kind of going for, and was being just, like I said, a bully. So he's really just trying to like light a fire under Tanjiro's ass to be like, listen, I already cut my boulder. You've been doing this 1.5 years. You don't even know how to do total concentration breathing. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and then we immediately meet our next character, Makomo. Makoto, yeah. Makoto, not Makomo.
I might be wrong. Might be Makomo. Bromo. Makomo.
Okay, Makomo. Because I did do a little bit of research on names. Because, fun fact, most anime, I don't know why I said Japanese there. So most anime have, like, the names for their characters always mean something, and it's not just in anime that's Japanese names as a whole. I don't know exactly how they're spelt, so I can't give, like, exact representation on what the names mean, but to my understanding, Sabito most likely means, like, elegant, simple person, which certainly was showcased as, like, him being eloquent with his sword swings and everything like that. With Tanjiro being like, oh, he has no wasted movement, which makes so much sense in the name. And then
no power fall off from his strikes.
Yeah, and then Makomo most likely means pure or genuine, which I'm not 100% on, because Makomo's direct translation is a type of wild rice. Like, super weird, but yeah.
Enter the more you know sound.
Maybe that's a play on, like, being fair-skinned. Very possible, because, having white skin is popular, or at least used to be popular in Japan.
But, after Sabito essentially Sabito kicks Tanjiro's butt, he says, I'm leaving the training to you. And Makomo is now going to help Tanjiro stop doing all these things wrong when he is swinging his sword. He's saying, she helped me get rid of all my wasted movement. She's helping me fine-tune the things that I've been doing wrong this whole time. And then every single day, he's been getting even better and better. And eventually, he keeps fighting Sabito, but he finds himself keep getting beaten by Sabito all the time, until we reach one of the climaxes of this episode. And there has been a few up till this point, but this was one of the more like profound moments for him as a character.
Oh, absolutely. Like, we got to see so much character growth from Tanjiro as a general whole. Like, that was something that I was really, really happy to see this episode, is the level of growth that he got over these 2 years. Like, a 2-year training montage, not a short amount of time, especially in anime. I mean, you see so many other animes cover things over months, and this anime goes, okay, well, instead of doing a time skip, we're showing you this montage and this effort and this work that was put in over this amount of time. And a few times, Tanjiro almost giving up throughout that time.
Yeah, he said there was no chance he could do this. There was no way. How am I ever going to cut this boulder? I don't think I'm going to be able to beat him ever.
And that's exactly why Sabito and Makomo showed up, and just awesome introduction for Sabito. I loved that scene so much. That was my favorite scene this episode, was that introduction. And frankly, like, him belittling Tanjiro, but really just showing him where he's lacking. What was your favorite? Well, before we get to
we should finish it up first because mine's still coming.
It's been 2 full years, and then Makomo says the words, "Beat that guy too," right after. Probably what is your favorite scene of that last fight between them? Sabito having the sword for the first time. In their fight together, and him being like, oh, you finally come to me looking like a man.
This was one of the coolest moments of this whole, like, last 2 episodes, was because this is now, like, everything Tanjiro has been working and striving towards for 2 years.
And it is my runner-up for favorite scene.
And you'd have to remind me how they translated this in Japanese, because I was watching it in English right before I got here, and it's the one that stuck with me currently. But he said, on this day, in this fight, my sword struck first.
Yeah. So that was correct. And he, like, in terms of milliseconds.
And then, you see Sabito's face, his mask gets cut clean off.
In half.
And he's just smiling at Tanjiro. And they said, you've done it.
But what an expression. Like, a smile that was happy and sad at the same time. Like, as that of being, like, relieved.
And now we see Tanjiro elated. And all of a sudden, you see Sabito and Makomo start fading away, and they're saying, you can do this. She said, beat the next guy for me.
Well, she said specifically beat that guy too. So, like, that was like...
And continue to beat the next guy for me.
Well, for me, I was like, what? Like, beat that guy too? Like, who's that guy?
And I think that is a foreshadow to the next few episodes. But I will talk that up when that happens. But Tanjiro is now in, like, a state of bewilderment where he's like, that thing I felt that I cut through, I was so certain it was his mask. And it wasn't the mask, it was the boulder.
And bam, Tanjiro did it. He's achieved the next step. He cut thy holy boulder.
But it fades to black right when he does that realization. And that is my favorite part, because it gives me straight chills.
Yeah.
The time he's like, it wasn't his mask, it was the boulder. And then the ending song kicks in. It's just goosebumps, like, up my arm that whole time. And I was just like, that's how you end a fucking episode, guys. I put my notes down.
Because you can't flail them around near the mic.
But it's awesome, guys.
Ow. Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of trouble this episode finding something that missed for me again, because this episode was just, like, it was mainly a training episode as a whole. Like, this whole episode was basically a training montage, and everything really hit so hard for me this episode, being like, this is his growth, this is his development, these are the challenges that he's going through. He has the drive, he has the determination, and we have a few lighthearted moments throughout that really showcase Tanjiro growing and really becoming ready, and then him having the long hair and everything in that end sequence.
Can we just appreciate how dope he looked with that really long hair after 2 years? I'm extremely sad that he ends up cutting that. And it's just like, but you look so cool.
I didn't remember that he cut it. So thanks for another spoiler. You're terrible at this. They cut to black. You don't know.
You can see it. It's
That's
in
not
every
episode by
visual
episode.
key. He doesn't have his long hair anymore, and it's just sad because
Well,
it
we
looked
don't know.
so dope.
We don't know. I want to see it in the next episode.
I had one gripe, and there was one gripe only. I wanted a little more about why Nezuko has been, unconscious for 6 months.
Well,
But it wasn't her episode.
2 years at this point.
They also didn't mention she woke up
They
at
did
any of that time.
They did a full year, so we know for a fact that it has been at least a full year of her being asleep.
Yeah, they mentioned the doctors, but they didn't say anything else.
Well,
So-
after a year is when the doctor came in. So we know for a fact she was asleep for at least a full year.
Yeah, so then I was like, what happened? Is there a reason? Can we get one? But she wasn't the focus. That was kind of like a throwaway. That was not. It didn't upset me, but it was the one thing that I was like, but I want more. Give me more, like now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the end of the episode for me was like, give me more now, because like that fade to black and everything, I was so excited.
I know they got you really like jazzed up for the next episodes,
Yeah, well, it's like, if that's the next step, what's the step after that?
and we'll find out.
That we will. Thank you for not spoiling. Andrew's too far ahead. So do you have any more to add for this episode? I mean, it was overall for me probably my favorite episode so far.
We gotta talk MVPs.
Oh yeah. So my MVP I'll mention my close second first. The Holy Boulder, which I will explain in a filler episode because it contains a spoiler. So catch us next week for our filler episode if you want to hear about that and you're willing to hear a little bit of a spoiler for our next episode. So Boulder, close second, very close second, because I mean, let's just be honest here. It's doing a lot more work than you think it is. But my first MVP for this episode is actually not a sword or an axe. It's Mr. Urokodaki. Just really putting in all that work and getting down those basics for Tanjiro, which are ultimately the most important part of anything, right? The fundamentals are infinitely important. If you forget the fundamentals, you can't learn any of the rest. So, Mr. Urokodaki for the win.
Okay, so because of your previous answers, from episodes 1 and 2,
Yeah.
I have my own stupid one.
Fantastic. What is it?
Tanjiro's journal.
Oh my god! I can't believe I didn't think of that.
Because, he wrote down everything that's happened in these last 2 years, not only for his sister, but for himself. So he would have forgotten maybe some of these training things that Urokodaki taught him. He said he needed that book to keep training himself for that half a year when Urokodaki stopped.
Yeah, you're right. I think I need to change my MVP. That's not dumb at all. That's fantastic. And for all we know, that's coming in clutch for this entire season or longer. Like, this may be like where this entire story is coming from. So of course the journal is MVP. I'm so dumb.
Boom.
It's decided. We found our official MVP for this episode is Tanjiro's journal. Get in the comments. Let us know if you agree or disagree. Personally, That is now hands down.
And I guess we'll see you in our filler episode or, episodes 4 and 5.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening. We're looking forward to having you in for our next episode. Next episode is filler episode. Come down, check us out. We're going to be chatting about random stuff, and we'll see what we end up getting into. Always a little bit about anime. Thank you so much for listening along. Love to see you in our next episode.
And until then, you enjoy watching.